how to have a better life, keys to having a better life, keys to living the dream, or just having a sweet ass life where you're happy and your days are good and the grass isn't greener, you actually like what you have more. Welcome in, much love, Trav here. A little bit windy day down here on the Puget Sound, so excuse the wind and the waves in the background. I hope that adds rather than detracts. Welcome in. Today we're going to be diving into the idea of living a better life. And I think the very first key to this is you have to be actively trying to live a better life. And a lot of people aren't doing this. A lot of people, it's not a goal to actually have a better life, is the sad truth. And it's possible that your life will get better by not trying, but it's unlikely, right? And then the second thing, which we're going to go into, is a lot of people don't really know what actually makes a life good, and we can blame the media for that, for telling us it's about buying random shit. We can blame the schools for not teaching that. We can blame a lot of people, but really it's on us to educate ourselves. So first, the goal of having a better life. That's a pretty reasonable goal, you know? There's a lot of good goals, but having good days while you're alive, that should be one of the top goals, right? And by having good days, we'll get into what makes good days, but you're going to be doing good work. It's going to be fulfilling. You're going to be benefiting everyone. It's going to be good for society for you to have good days. It's going to be good for you to have good days. If you pick the wrong target, your target is to have these fancy things or to have all this free time or, you know, whatever, you may find out that you get there and it's like, well, I'm not actually happy. I don't actually like my days, you know. Riches come in many forms. Happiness, there's a lot of factors that contribute to it. So if you want just security, guess what? There's more to that. If you want just money, guess what? There's more to it. If you want freedom to travel, that's one component, right? So you have to look at all the components. But you have to have the goal, the target of, I actually want to live a good life. I think it's possible to live a better life. That's my goal. I'm going to work on it incrementally. Try to move from a 6 to a 7. I'm also going to try to work in leap and bounds. Sometimes the good life, the best life is not attainable in your current location. You're going to have to travel and move, perhaps. Possible that the good life is not attainable with your current relationship. You're going to have to get out there and do something different, right? It's possible the good life is not, the best life for you is not possible by just getting that next promotion in your job. It might be that you actually need to be in other fields of work and you have to spend time doing it, and the pressure could be magnified by having dependents and kids on you and so on. So what are you supposed to do? Well, is that the best excuse though? I can't talk to you from experience on this one, but I will say maybe you have an obligation or you owe it to your offspring to try to give them the best life as well. So maybe that's a good excuse, maybe it's not, right? You know, there's all sorts of excuses we can use about why our life isn't exactly where we want it to be, or why we're okay with something mediocre and medium, but we shouldn't be. We should be striving to improve it, always, you know. Improving our social life if we're staying in the same place, improving our health if we're staying in the same place, improving our work, right? So let's move into what actually makes a life good. That's not obvious. No one's really taught us that. It's also not that clear from science how to do it in the modern world. We're getting all sorts of conflicting signals from all these TV commercials telling us this vodka will make us happy, or this Big Mac will make us happy. No, it's the shoes. It's the shoes. These shoes. No, you get this car, this bow-wrapped car for Christmas. That's definitely the good life, make you happy. Those are things, those are moments. Those moments may or may not even contribute to happiness, but there's a couple key things that actually make us happen, and a lot of that you'll find by researching and reading psychology and sociology, and especially evolutionary psychology will give you ideas about what actually a good life is. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a good place to start. Google that, look it up. You have the basics of safety and security, but you move up that and you have self-actualization. You want to feel good about what you're doing, like you're contributing, right? Those are factors. But a key important thing as well is having a good Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, you want to know some biology and physiology and know that if you have some shitty, stressful computer job, sorry if that applies to you, but you're going to have elevated levels of cortisol, your hormones are going to be off. It's going to be hard to even have a good time, right? You know that exercising changes your hormonal makeup, makes you feel good, right? If you work outside, that might be a piece of the puzzle, right? Keys to the good life, or keys to having a better life. Social connection. Isolation is one of the biggest indicators and one of the biggest contributors to depression and early death. Isolation. That you think you want this freedom to travel and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, maybe you do, you try it, you don't like it that much. I've been there. It's actually commitments to other people is an important part of the good life. No strings attached relationships, actually not as fulfilling as having obligations and fulfilling those obligations. You fulfill obligations, it brings you fulfillment, right? When you fulfill obligations, right? Fulfill commitments. So having good social life is key. What does that even mean? Having friends you see outside of work. And mixing work and play, mixing work and romance, mixing work, and it should all be tied together. You know, you look at the good life and a good life historically, what's been historically normal, you go back through thousands of years and millennia, is very different from what we have today, is unnatural and weird, if everyone's crammed in their own room and sectioned off, you know. We have had cities for long enough times for people to adapt, but not necessarily fully. You might not be a city person, but you might be born in the city. And it feels fucking weird, and you don't know until you leave, until you travel and you experience something else. But that's also a massive challenge in the modern world, because that's pretty much how we live now. We don't really have villages anymore. A lot of it's illegal. The government made a lot of that stuff illegal. You can only have so many people living on property. You can only have, you know, they make it hard for farmers to live on their land and stuff like that. So there's laws that make this stuff harder. There's cultural barriers to make it harder. So the goal isn't necessarily to have the perfect possible life, but to improve what you have incrementally up to the point where, like, okay, I have good days. My days are good. Today was a good day every day. That was the best day of my life, right? Today is the best day of my life. How can you get to that point? What goes into it? I'll give you some ideas. Hard physical labor, a little bit, not necessarily a lot. Creative work, you do something creative. Learning, you learn something new. You eat good food. You play, there's a little bit of play with your friends. You have intimacy, there's intimacy in your ideal day. You spend time with family. And you do teamwork, you work towards a communal goal, right? Those are very simple keys to having good, fulfilling days. Is also devoid of, you're not really stressed out about money. So does money bring happiness? Lack of money brings stress and unhappiness. So there's a certain amount you want to make. The good life doesn't have so much fear necessarily and violence, right? There's a lack of that. Abusive relationships, drug addiction, you know, those things. There's also devoid of those things, so you need to clear them out. You may need to clear out relationships that aren't serving you. You may need to clear out habits that aren't serving you. So where do you start? Question, where do you start? That's a good question. I'll give you a few ideas. And the first one is, get some clarity on what you actually want in life. What you think actually could make a good life. And make it a goal, make it a target. Get some more information on it. Start reading some psychology and some evolutionary psychology, some physiology, some biology. Read up, learn. Learn what actually brings happiness. Okay? Another key thing you could check out, I have a course, 1 Year Life Transformation. It's meant to help you totally change, totally improve, blast off. It's also for high performers. It's hard to help the very low performers. If you're very depressed, then I don't necessarily have the answer for you. But for those of you who want extra help, you should check that out. 1 Year Life Transformation. There'll be a link to that down below. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. What makes a good life for you? What can you do to make your life better? Share that in the comments. Would love to hear. Appreciate you. Much love, and talk soon.